Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Tyraco here, and how have you all been? Hopefully everybody's been doing well. It's a pretty early into the new year, so hopefully it's all going good for you. I've been pretty busy myself. We recently got my oldest son signed up for some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes, which I highly recommend. If there's a school near you and you've been debating trying it, try it out. I've done it for several years now, so I'm definitely excited for him to get started into that. He's almost 4 years old. The guys he's training with, the instructor is awesome, but probably my favorite part is that it's a parent and kid class. So I go in there and I get to walk my son through after the instructions, teach him the stuff, kind of fun, kind of games, you know, then we can come home and play this stuff. So it's definitely awesome. I've been enjoying it. We got another class today, actually in a few hours. So I'm looking forward to that. But today, before this Doomtower rotation ends and before the next CVC, I wanted to get this video out in case you're waiting to pull this champion. This champion is Urost Soulcage. So Urost is the second legendary you're going to get from the hard Doomtower, the secret room. So basically, if you're playing the game for a while, you're going to get him. You don't have to do all the Doomtower secret rooms. You can literally just do a few of them, and eventually you're going to get this champion. It may feel like forever, but when you finally get him, he is definitely worth building. I'm going to talk about a few different builds, and then I'm going to show you the full auto Scarab King, as well as the most important part, in my opinion, full auto Icegolem, Stage 25, as well as Dragon Stage 25. And then once we get the rotation with the Griffin, I'm going to try to work some stuff in with him on the Griffin, and then probably release a more solidified, 100% successful Dragon and Icegolem Stage 25 build. So this one I did seemed pretty consistent. It seemed pretty smooth, but you know, with everything like this, it's like you run a few and then it fails, and then it's just something weird happens. So I'm going to try to iron out all of the kinks. But I also want to know, do you prefer stage 20 or stage 24/25 farming? So real quick, the benefits: stage 20 is the best for tournament points, dungeon diver events. You get good silver, best for leveling your champions. But 24 and 25 are going to be the best for actually getting good gear. So if you're somebody who wants to be more efficient, stage 20 is probably the better option. But if you're more worried about gear, then 24/25, with 24 probably being the best balance of all that together. So let me know what you're most interested in. I tested Urost doing stage 25 Icegolem, stage 25 Dragon, and then Scarab King on the top floor, and all of them were successful. And you may be surprised on what kind of gear he's wearing. So he does have Brimstone, which if you can get the blessings, go ahead, pick up Brimstone. Smite is going to speed up your runs, but even more than that, it's going to give you plus 5,000 HP, which is huge because Urost, he lives on that HP. Okay, so, well, I guess everybody does. Yeah, I guess literally everybody lives on their HP, but HP is just so good for this guy because let's take a look at his kit. His A1 ability: attacks one enemy, places a shield buff on this champion equal to 10% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns, which when we get into his passive, you're going to see how massive of a shield this can potentially be. The shield's value increases about 1% for each poison debuff on the target. So keep that in mind. Everything is booked. I don't think the A1 has to be booked, and if you just want to do Scarab, you don't need everything fully booked, though I would definitely try to get the passive booked. Now for the dungeons, I would assume you do need everything fully booked. The passive does speed the runs up quite a bit, so if you have the books, go ahead and book him. For the dungeon runs, I think he does need to be fully booked. So his A2, attacks all enemies, 75% chance of decreasing the turn meter by 15% of enemies under 1 poison debuff. Also, 75% chance of decreasing or placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns on enemies under 2 or more poisons. Has a 75% chance of placing stun for 1 turn on enemies under 3 or more poisons. So 1 poison, turn meter decrease. 2 poisons, decrease speed and turn meter decrease. 3 poisons or more, stun, decrease speed, and decrease turn meter. If I'm understanding that correctly, which is an amazing A2 ability on a 3-turn cooldown. And when fully booked, that is a 100% chance on each one of these abilities, which is going to make the artifact set that he's currently wearing synergize so incredibly well with this, because it doesn't have to be 5% poison debuffs. It can be the ones from the toxic set. So his A3 ability places Strengthen on all allies for 2 turns and a 50% ally protection. We don't really care about the ally protection. I mean, we're doing all this solo, so this is actually probably harmful, but the allies are going to die, assuming you're leveling food, so it's going to be pretty quick anyways. Places a 25% Strengthen, which is going to help him out immensely in actually surviving through these waves. Now, his passive. There's a lot to take in here, okay? So when attacked, he has a chance of placing poisons, which is amazing. It gets up to a higher percentage when it's fully booked. Whenever an ally is attacked, this doesn't really matter because no ally is going to be attacked. This part is pretty important. Increases this champion's max HP by 5% whenever an enemy receives damage from poison debuffs placed by this champion. Whenever an enemy receives damage from poison, also destroys their max HP by 5%. So the destroyed max HP cannot be more than 25% in one battle, and will not destroy bosses' max HP, and cannot increase this champion's max HP by more than 50%. So that's what I'm talking about. The HP on this champion is so good because he's going to be increasing his HP by potentially 50%. And in these runs, it should be 50%, which take a look at that. So if you have 100,000 HP, you're going to be able to increase your HP by 50,000, putting you at 150,000 HP, which is an insane amount of HP, especially when you look at the defense that he has, the speed that he has, and everything else that he has. So this champion is actually a very easy guy to build for solo content. If you want to build him to specifically do what I'm doing right here, this is what I have, okay? These are all the pieces of gear. Let me see if I can upgrade this, actually. I probably had no silver, honestly. So if you guys can, leave a like on this video because I run out of my silver all the time. Look, we got some more speed. But testing out these champions, changing up the builds just ever so slightly drains my silver like crazy. So right now, I have him in a Toxic plus Immortal set. So for the Immortal, obviously, the reason why we have that is to get those extra heals. His A1 ability does put a big shield. I mean, just imagine, if he has 100,000 HP, it's going to be a 10,000 HP shield that he's doing every time he does that A1 ability. So he has a ton of leeway with his other stats just because of how good his kit is in general, plus the strengthen, you get the point. But either way, as far as his stats to shoot for, if you're just doing Scarab, you don't need resistance because the decreased speed from the Scarab is actually good. All you need is really good HP. Defense, have it decent, not a huge deal. As long as you're recovering from the Immortal plus regeneration, you should be fine. The speed, I've actually seen people run like no speed basically whatsoever. I think I had mine at 160 speed before, and it worked out perfectly fine. And with Doom Tower, it doesn't really matter if you're 100% because it costs no resources if you fail it, right? So you can just keep running it 75%. It's perfectly fine, especially with super raids, at least in my opinion. Now for the resistance, like I said, for Scarab King alone, doesn't really matter. But if you want to try him on the Griffin, which I am going to do, then you're going to need some resistance. So here we go. For the Doom Tower, so for Scarab King and the Griffin, if you want to resist everything, then you're going to need 355 resistance. However, Urost comes with his own 80 resistance in all battles, meaning that you can get away with 275 resistance, which makes this far more achievable. But if you're only doing dungeons, you do need resistance there. So in general, if you want to do dungeons plus Scarab, or dungeons plus Griffin maybe, you're going to need 235 resistance to get you to that 315 resistance needed for dungeons, which isn't that bad whatsoever. 235 resistance when most champions for solo need 300 and then 200 accuracy. So it's not too bad. Now, when it comes to the accuracy needed, if you're just doing dungeons, you only need 200 accuracy. But I think Urost is so good that you don't want to just do dungeons. So if you're doing both, you're going to want at least 355 accuracy. So for me, I'm shooting for 355 accuracy and then 235 at least resistance. But I went ahead and got the 275. So I'm going to try him out when the Griffin comes around and we'll see what I can make work over there. Now, as far as the masteries go, this is what I have. So basically my thought process with this is that the poison set, the toxic set, is going to be placing, well, a lot of poisons. So having the turn meter boosted from debuffs is going to be amazing when they expire because a toxic set, we're going to be placing a lot, should get a lot of turn meter boosting, so on and so forth. Plus Oppressor just works very well with debuffs. I had Rapid Response for a little while, but it doesn't make as much sense considering he only places a couple buffs on himself, and he's going to have far more potential for much more turn meter boosting if it's based on the debuffs, right? So everything else you can see here, we do get crits, so Cycle of Revenge is great. You can work on stage 20, 25, 24, 23, really whatever stage you want because he's Void Affinity. So it doesn't matter what stage you're doing, it's going to basically all be the same. I do have this because he's the only person killing people. So yeah, it's going to be pretty nice. It's going to allow you to, at least in the Icegolem, go from that first wave of maybe getting close to death. And then as you start picking off the enemies, you should be able to restore some of your HP. 10% HP on Urost is significant. And then going into that second round with some decent HP. Icegolem stage 25, the second wave is probably the most difficult wave. And then we have Shadow Heal. Always nice to get a heal if the enemy does heal themselves as well. And then, yeah, there we go. That's his build. I'll click through his gear so you guys can see it real quick. And then we'll get into actually running these dungeons. But if you guys have any questions, definitely let me know down in the comment section below. If you just want to do solo Scarab, it's far easier gear than this is. But if you want to spread it out to do Dragon and Icegolem, then the gear definitely becomes a little bit easier. You can also use regeneration. Obviously, if you want to make the runs a little bit slower, but possibly more safe, Then you could do regeneration. You could do 3 sets of immortal. You could do bolster plus immortal. You could do regeneration plus perception. I mean, you kind of get the point because we have one small healing set in immortal and then no heals at all from toxic. So yeah, mix and match it. It's going to make the runs take longer if you go with those other gear sets. But hey, it should work perfectly fine. So that's my Urost. Let's get into the runs. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.